AFC games kind of rule the morning. Bills, Dolphins, Chiefs, Colts, Ravens, Pats. And then the afternoon, we got Rams, Cardinals. Both teams, one of those, whoever loses that game is going to be under 500. And then Packers, Tampa, which is an awesome game in the afternoon.
I think that's a playoff type preview game, right? Tampa coming off 2 huge wins. Sunday Night Football to open the week is big at Dallas, and they kicked their ass. And last week was a massive game. I mean, that game felt like Georgia, Alabama in terms of just the South, how big it is, how physical the game was. To me, the number one game, if you said I can only watch one Sunday beside the night one, would be Packers-Bucs. Because the AFC thing, like, I don't think the Colts are good, even though I'd fade them from a gambling perspective. I don't think they're going to win, but it won't shock me if they're covered. I do think the Dolphins come back to earth a little bit. I mean, I know the Bills coming off a short week, but they didn't have to travel, so it's at home. I mean, the Bills are just really good. Did the Dolphins, they were losing 30 whatever. What was the score? 35-14?
14, yeah, 35-14.
Like that was the score. You know, I know they came back, but at one point in time, like they were getting housed. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm sorry. And same thing with the Cards. Like I've seen the Cards through 2 weeks. They had a remarkable, like, 15-minute stretch where the quarterback has been doing it since he was in high school and he never lost a game. Do I trust them? No. The Rams, I didn't see any of that game on Sunday. So last night, I was kind of bored flipping channels. I'm like, I was like, you know what? I'll go watch the ending of Browns-Jets, and I'll watch the ending of Falcons-Rams. I was fascinated by Falcons-Rams because they were killing them. Do you know what happened, guy? They got a blocked punt where the guy picked it up and scored. So there's 7 points. Cooper Kupp then fumbled. So they got it. Like they got 2 turnovers quickly that led to 14 points.
You're
so
saying
out of
the
nowhere,
Falcons minus 11 bettors got a gift.
Yeah, my point is it's 31 to whatever, 10. And they were just, boom, 15 points. Now, they created it. The sweet block punt where the guy's untouched, comes right up the middle. He's basically in front of the guy's leg. The ball takes him out, but it's such a pure block that people are like, is that roughing? No, it's just an incredible block. And then Cooper Kupp, fucking the guy hits it out of his helmet, or I mean his hands. Ball bounces off like 7 guys, ends up in a Falcon. I mean, and then they were driving to win the game. Like Mariota was leading them down. They actually... Mariota looks feisty, but it went from 31-10 to 31-25 pretty quick because of a couple turnovers.
You know, you think about the Packers-Bucs games, they've been heartbreaking games for the Packers, right? They played twice 2 years ago, blowout early in Tampa, and then they played the game in the playoffs late. That was the game that was very controversial. It made everyone think Aaron wanted out. He was complaining about some of the play calling, some of the decisions. So it's been, the Bucs games have been rough for the Packers on a couple of fronts. And I do think Aaron did not throw a touchdown week 1 in the loss to the Vikings. And then, you know, they played a game last week that against Chicago isn't going to impress anybody. So Aaron Rodgers has thrown 2 touchdowns through 2 weeks. That's really done. Now, they didn't have to do much last week, but, you know, I do think with Green Bay, there is some question as we try to figure out. I think we've got a pretty good idea what the AFC looks like, who the really good teams in the AFC are. The Packers have been one of the best teams in the NFC for several years now. Are they still going to be that? Now, maybe this isn't the week. Tampa's defense might be the best in the league. So maybe this isn't the week, but I do think the Packers could send a major message if they could find a way to win this game.
I agree. To me, Packers win this game, you'd feel pretty good about them, right? Because one thing they've tried to do is create a team that could hang with the physicality why they've been losing in the playoffs, right? To the Niners, to Tampa. And that's so instead of going to this, you know, they were a little more like Floyd Mayweather, bouncing around the ring, throwing a couple jabs, scoring a bunch of points, looking at the judges. Now they want to be a heavyweight fighter. Like they want to play defense, run the ball down your throat. Can they play with Tampa? It's not like Tampa has a home field advantage, right?
Well, if they find a way to win, they'll be favored in their next 4 games. Green Bay plays the Patriots, the Giants, the Jets, and the Commanders. 3 of those 4 games are in Green Bay. So they play Lambeau Patriots, Lambeau Giants, Lambeau Jets, and then on the road at the Commanders, all before they play the Bills week 8.
So you would say they're winning 3 of those games, whether they win or lose this game. Yeah. So are they a 4-2 team, or are they like a 5-1 team?
Well, right? What I'm saying is their next 4 weeks aren't really going to tell us a lot about them. If they're good, like this is the game, right? They could lose this game by 21 points
and run the table.
The Patriots, the Giants, the Jets, the Commanders. What do I really know about Green Bay?
Yeah, I agree.
So this is a big game for them.
Well, if they're 5-1 with the win at Tampa, we go they're real, right? That first week, whatever, like last year, throw it out the window. Like they got a tough team. They lose this game, you would be like, well, there is a big gap between them and Tampa. Even though it's weird, like is Tampa's
so down this week. That's the other thing.
Well, they're missing 18 million players.
Mike Evans. Judge Sue did not get the Mike Evans appeal, I guess. Why didn't Judge Sue do the Mike Evans appeal?
He was protecting Brady.
We got to build up Judge Sue's brand here.
Yeah.
With some more, some more cases, like when you keep saying the same judge in all the Law and Orders. All right. So we got that game. That's the national Fox game. So no matter what you do, you're getting that game. Rams Cards. One of those teams is going to be 1-2.
I would say it'd be the Cards.
Big bounce back game for the Ravens this week. We talked about Chiefs Colts. Bills Dolphins. I mean, I don't think anyone's Is Mike McDaniel going to beat John Harbaugh, Bill Belichick, and Josh Allen in his first 3 weeks?
He's playing a little bit with house money in this game, right? It's at Buffalo.
Is Tua back if they win this game?
Where's the game? Buffalo, right?
I thought the game was in Miami, but let me stand by.
I think the game's in Buffalo. I thought.
Game's in Miami.
Okay, well, a little less house money. Right? Because if you want a chance to win the division, you probably got to split with them.
Yeah. Win the division. If they just make the playoffs, Mike McDaniel might be the coach of the year. I mean, Tua.
They've won 19 games the last 2 years.
I know, but this is a whole. Because if he does it with Tua, they've done it despite Tua the last couple of years. If he does it with Tua,
it'd be impressive.
That in and of itself will be the thing that I think gets him the coach of the year.
I agree there.
Right.
I'm rooting for Mike.
I am too. How can you not? No coach has ever coached in a bigger watch than Mike McDaniel, other than Mike Matheny. He used to wear a big watch. But this guy's wearing like a 50-inch, like fucking airline pilot watch.
What would you guess his watch cost?
$8,000 to $12,000 probably.
Oh, you weren't gonna go. I was gonna go like 50.
Now it's pretty hard to get to $50,000. I think it's like. I think it's probably like a 8 to 15,000. I think it's like a Breitling, which is just a big ass fucking watch.
Oh, there's big. See,
I'll ask Shane. He wears one.
I don't like the big watches on my wrist.
No, I don't either. It doesn't work for me. And honestly, it's too big for him. But whatever, he likes.
But is it? But is it once you're good? Like
but whatever. He's got a skinny wrist, but you wear whatever makes you happy. It's your watch. It's not my watch. So whatever. I'm not here to.
Well, he's got the designer. He's got the designer shades on. I mean, he's cooking with gas right now. That's for sure.
But that's anyway. So we've been talking about. You want to talk about like a Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Fox? You see the Thursday night game last week on Amazon, allegedly outrated the Monday night games, which of course those games were bad. And Amazon, they did Amazon big favor, right? Because they gave him Herbert versus Mahomes. It's hard to beat that.
I mean, when you turned on the television, we're recording this before this Thursday night game, which feels shitty. That game last week at 5:10 or whatever, when they kind of came to Al and Chris and they showed the field and the teams weren't there and there was an empty seat, it felt like SEC, NFL playoff. It felt enormous. That game popped to me on television, like immediately. And then, like you said, I mean, you're just watching for the two quarterbacks. And then the game was good. It was just kind of like a high level. It was going to come down to the end. I'm just fascinated by, you told me that Fox through 2 weeks has been outrating Monday Night Football. Like basically Burkhardt and
I think
Olsen.
it's like up 1%. I read it that it was the afternoon Fox windows outrating Monday night. Yeah.
One thing is just simple in the sport of football. If you told me Georgia, Alabama is playing on Saturday, or USC, Ohio State, or Brady versus Rodgers, it really doesn't matter who calls the game. Obviously, it sounds bigger with Joe and Troy Aikman. They are more famous than Olsen. Even though Burkhardt, I think, kind of resonates with people's ears. We've been hearing him for a long time now calling NFL games. Yeah.
And he's big on, and I would just say this for Burkhardt, like he's Fox's Major League Baseball guy. When you watch the World Series, he's there with Poppy and A-Rod. Right?
Started in New York, so all the New York fans know him, right?
Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
But it does not matter who. Now, you can ruin it. Right, you would say the last 3 or 4 years from Monday Night Football, once Gruden left, was a disaster for ESPN because it felt jumbled. It felt people over their head. It was not good. But if you give me two professionals where I think the thing with a football game, unless you're the cream of the crop, like Al Michaels or Joe, like as long as you're just solid, I don't even want to notice you. I just kind of want to watch the game.
Yeah.
It's when your team sucks by late in the season, you're like getting the fifth crew and you're like, God, the analyst doesn't even know my team. It's like that. These guys don't even know what's going on. But the Fox afternoon games, I mean, for us afternoon, for the East Coast, like night, it's just consistently one of the best games on television, right? Yeah. As the season goes, it's just Niners-Rams. It's Rodgers-Brady. If the Cowboys are good, it'll be like Cowboys-Eagles. I mean, it's just massive games. It's always like Rodgers-Cowboys. Russell, back when Russell was in Seattle, it'd be like Seattle-Rams. I mean, it's the sweetest games consistently. It's usually a top 2 or 3 game of the week. Because sometimes the AFC, I guess it just depends on the year. The broadcast on CBS can be just a little duller than Fox. I don't know. There's something a little more progressive is probably the wrong way to put it, but just like
aggressive.
Aggressive. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. And so when you get really good teams, it's just consistently, to me, the best game on television. Sunday night, Sunday night's a little dependent, like especially as the season goes, things get out of their control. Fox will just pivot. Right? I mean, week to week, they'll just pick the best game of the week for the NFC. Sunday night up until mid to late November, they're set. There's nothing they can do. Right? Like if Russell Wilson or if Jimmy Garoppolo didn't exist, it would be Russell versus Brock Purdy, and Sunday night would be fucked. Correct?
Yeah, it was funny. They showed a graphic for Sunday Night Football the other day. Like last Sunday, they promoted this one, and it was Russ. It was an image. It was Russ and
Bosa,
Debo, I think.
Yeah.
And I wondered, had they edited out, was it Russ and Trey? And they took, they had to edit Trey out of that and put Debo in. I would think it would have been Trey, given how much attention Trey has garnered through the preseason. But you're right. Now you
could have gone Kyle.
Could have gone Kyle. I think Joe and Troy are probably worth more money to Monday Night Football than they're worth to Fox, given what you said on Fox's rating, and that they felt like, hey, we got Burkhardt and Olsen. This is going to be not a soul's going to watch this broadcast and go, I don't know, not that good. Whereas Monday Night Football has been fighting a brand thing for a few years now, right? Most people don't turn it on and get, Steve Levy, I don't know, not into it. But I think there's just been so much talk. And I think one underrated part, I think we always talk about what are guys worth relative to the quality of the broadcast for fans, but most fans are not that locked in on it. I mean, like the people that listen to this podcast, you guys are by and large probably more hardcore fans than your average fan who just sometimes mostly catches Monday Night Football, but not always, whatever. I think it's about the league. I've read enough of this stuff that it's also about showing the league that you are fully invested in making their product look as good as you possibly can. And you get rewarded when you do that. You get rewarded with Super Bowls. You get rewarded with better games. When you show the league you are all in on its product. And I think when you spend money on Joe and Troy for your ESPN, it's just as much about that as it is about, because I think we laugh like, oh, everyone's giving you shit on Twitter. Who cares? But I don't think it's partly that probably, and just your brand, you kind of eroding your what your brand value is. But I also think it's just showing the league like, hey, no, we are doing everything we need to do. It's going to be when we have the Super Bowl on ABC, it's going to be Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Don't worry about your product.
Well, who was Amazon's ideal combination? It was Al Michaels and Sean McVay. Like that was clearly the combo they were trying to put together, right? That would have been pretty like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Even, who knows how good Sean, it would have been hard for Sean to suck. The star power of those two guys would have been pretty big, right? I mean, that would have been, and they ultimately they ran out of options. And they just got a pro who's pretty famous, but
he's not Sean McVay.
Who was their next option? A Hall of Fame guy that just was a general manager in the league. They were going, big game hunting because Amazon, it's pretty clear in our lifetime, it is just not like, I don't exactly know how this is going to play out. Like a CBS Fox aren't going to die or anything. It doesn't feel like, but we're going to come to a time where like CBS just doesn't have it. Right. Or Fox, in 30, 20 years.
Well, I do think that's where, like, you've seen NBC, with Peacock. I think everyone's going to have to some degree, eventually pivot to some streaming version.
I know, but my point is, like, eventually, if they truly just cared purely about the money, if Fox, YouTube, and Netflix, they wanted to own all the rights. They could out. Who knows? Netflix has been a little down, but you know what I mean. Like
Well, they could
Amazon, Apple just wanted to split the NFL. They could double what these networks can afford.
Yeah, but the NFL's not going there until they can also get the most eyeballs. Because the NFL needs,
I know, but I'm talking maybe it's 10 years, but I'm just saying like it's not inconceivable if money is the only thing that matters because they could take so much fucking money.
But it's not the only thing that matters. I'm saying the NFL will be wherever the most eyeballs are going to be. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
no, this time around they were still offering the most money.
Well,
or the money was relatively even and they just leaned with loyalty.
Yeah, well, but I also think it's eyeballs. Like, you're still going to get more eyeballs on ABC by and large than you will on Amazon.
Yeah, but in 10 years when this thing's up, society could be dramatically
I'm saying is
different.
10 years from now, it's going to be about eyeballs because they can pay more money right now.
Yeah. Well, their eyeballs are going to infinitely grow.
My ultimate point is the NFL is going to ride the eyeballs on network until there's more eyeballs on streaming. That's my point.
I would push back on if the numbers get so crazy, like whatever their deal just was. I forget that it was a 10 billion or 100 billion, whatever the fucking deal was.
Yeah.
If those, in 10 years, if the eyeballs are still 20, it'd be easier to do that, but it's 7x the amount of revenue or so, just gets to a number.
The NFL is also going to understand we're the NFL, so the eyeballs for the most part will follow us, but I still think it'll have to be close from an
Did you see what Amazon Prime said was a historic day for signups?
Yeah, I mean they have more. They have like Amazon Prime Video has like 6x more users than DirecTV does,
which makes sense. Think how many people use Amazon.
Well, less people use DirecTV every year. DirecTV subscriptions are declining.
Yeah, and more people are just using Amazon to deliver stuff.
79 million people have Amazon.
Feels low.
Yeah, I know. There are a couple comments here. Where did this one go? Oh, yeah, this is interesting. It's only going to hurt the Manning cast because I only watched that and I couldn't bear listening to Booger. It is interesting, right? They spent so much money on the Manning cast and then they went and spent so much money on Troy and Joe. But I just think they're at a point where they can't afford to. They couldn't not get Troy and Joe because they'd spent so much on the Manning cast. But can they really do both simultaneously? It doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense.